Sanibonani Dumlang, hello, it's Simply Spitzer here and welcome back to my YouTube channel, but also a special welcome to you if you're joining me here for the very first time. If you're not yet subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. And also if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and feel free to leave a comment down below. Now we got the formalities out of the way. Before I dive into this video, or let me say like the main topic for this video, I want to give you guys a bit of a life update, what's been happening with me. And so if you watched my last video, you'll know that at SMU there have been protests and strike action. Because of that, academic activities have been suspended, and so I did stick it out a few weeks at res, but after a while I thought, you know what, let me just come home, which was actually, how do I put it? I don't want to say like a blessing in disguise, but I think it, like, the timing was pretty wild because I had a bit of a, I don't want to say a health scare, but okay, just basically I was experiencing like chest pain, which at first I didn't think was too serious, but then as it got worse, I was like, okay, you know what, I told my mom, like, Mom, I'm feeling this chest pain, it's getting worse, I don't know what's happening. And so then we went to the hospital, and then I was admitted for a few hours and given treatment, and the ultimate diagnosis was that I had gastritis with ulcers. So basically I had like ulcers, just layman's terms, I had ulcers, and that was the cause for my chest pain. And for a second I was like, really? Like, only after a while, retrospectively, I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember when I was doing internal medicine and even now in surgery, one of the differential diagnoses for chest pain is it could be cardiac causes, it could be respiratory causes, but you'd also rule out ulcers because they can also cause chest pain. And so yeah, I've been taking treatment for that for a couple days, and funny enough, the day I was admitted in hospital is the day I actually originally planned to film this video. That's why I just kind of felt like I needed to just talk about it for a bit. But now I'm good, you know, I'm following the dietary recommendations so I can feel better. Like, the pain is a lot better now, and yeah, I'm good. So no need to worry about me, you know, in case you're hearing about this for the first time. I am good. So we can get right into today's video. So you can probably tell by the title of today's video, we will be discussing how to find study motivation and how to stay motivated to study, which is something which these are things that I've actually been practicing over the last couple of weeks, especially since I haven't had any like formal academic activities. These are the techniques I've been using to keep engaged with my academics, to keep studying. I do just want to preface this and say that this isn't a I don't know, 1 2 3 step formula that you can just, you know, conjure up, but it's something that takes practice, and it's things that I'm still personally working on. Okay, so one thing I can say also before, guys, that action is what breeds true motivation. I know a lot of us think of it the other way. We think that we need to first feel motivated to be, you know, like, we need the motivation to start moving, but it's action that actually breeds the motivation. And so we shouldn't actually wait for the feeling to come, but these are like actionable steps that I hope will help us do better in terms of the studying. And please also forgive the changing lighting. I'm using this and the sun, and there are clouds, so we move. But okay, the first step is to evaluate your study methods. Look at what you're doing, what you're studying, because you might find that the reason why you aren't being motivated to study, or you find it like difficult to keep on studying, is perhaps your study methods just aren't working. So evaluate them, see, do they produce the results you want, or, you know, are there other better study methods out there? Look up and research other study methods that are available. And then the second point would be planning what subjects you want to do, the time you want to start studying, and preparing your resources. So by that I mean, if you say, okay, tomorrow I want to plan, for example, I'll say, okay, I want to plan pharmacology, I want to study pharmacology, and so the night before, I'll literally take out my pharmacology textbook, I'll look whatever notes I want to study, like I'll look what section I want to study, and then I'll prepare those slides. So when it's time to study, I'm not running around looking for notes, I'm not running around looking for the textbook, and even like my notebooks, all of that I have it prepared the day before. And that really does make you feel a lot more motivated, because when it's time to start, everything was already prepared. And also, while also planning, break the work up into sections. So sometimes I think it can be overwhelming if you think to yourself, tomorrow I'm going to study pharmacology, because you're like, oh my gosh, like, pharmacology is a big topics. Okay, under pharmacology, we have like CVS, and okay, CVS is also quite a big topic. Let's break it down further. Okay, you know what? Tomorrow I'm gonna do hypertension and heart failure. That's just an example. And so by doing that, it makes it a lot less overwhelming essentially. And remember, like, this is a plan, it's a guideline, but I think another thing is we shouldn't I think the trap which sometimes we can fall into is we get so caught up in the planning, we don't get to actually doing anything, or when things don't go according to plan, that can also derail us. So I think you should sort of use the plan as like a guideline that sort of guides you, but just also make room for things not always going according to plan, as it did in my case. Because honestly, like, being sick, not feeling well did mess up my plans, because not only before admission I couldn't start, but even after, like the past few days, I've just been so drowsy because of the medication that I've been taking. But now, I'm doing my best, just looking, reworking the plan, and knowing that, the plan won't always succeed. I think if you have that in mind beforehand, then when things don't go according to plan, you won't be as I think derailed or demotivated as that what happens. I think that's what happens. Like, you set a plan, and when things don't go according to plan, it can be demotivating. And so, what I do while studying. So this is sort of like, this ties in with the first point of evaluating your study methods. But I don't want to talk too much about study methods. I feel like that could and should be its own video. And I'm also still in the process of figuring out my study methods. But for right now, if you want to know what can you do right now, you can check out RemNote, which is a note-taking app, an application that I use on my laptop to take down notes. And what I love about it is that it also converts my notes into flashcards, so I can even like assess myself and see how well do I actually understand the topics. And the nice thing about using RemNote is that I have my notes with me everywhere. Like, as long as I have a device that connects to the internet, I have access to my notes, which is really helpful, especially coming home from res. Instead of having to carry like 5 million notebooks, I now just, because I just have my laptop and I have my tablet and my phone, I have access to all my notes. It's really easy. Like, just if you search RemNote on the Play Store, by the way, this is not sponsored, on the Play Store, you'll see it. And also, if you search RemNote on YouTube, you'll find the tutorials for it. And I highly recommend. And something else I do while studying is an app called Forest. I'll put the logo on screen. Forest is an app that a friend told me about in second year, and I've been using it on and off since then, but now I'm getting back into using it. Because what I like about Forest is you set a time for how long you want to study, and during that time, while that time is running, like, I can't use my phone for that, so I can't be checking WhatsApp or checking Twitter, or I mean, of course, I can answer calls, but it's essentially, it forces me to also think twice about, okay, do I really need to check my phone right now? And also, what I like about using Forest is that it also keeps track of how long I've been studying. So it'll have like a little bar graph, so I can check the bar graph for the day, for the week, or the month. And I can also sort of literally witness and see how well have I been studying, or how, like, poorly. Like, sometimes I look and be like, oh my gosh, what do you mean I've only studied for like 2 hours? And then just looking at it and seeing that visual representation motivates me to study more. But also, I think sometimes I underestimate how much studying I've done. And so I'll feel as if I haven't been studying effectively. I feel like I've just been playing, like, because, like, time is like such a relative thing. Sometimes I feel like I've only studied for like 2 seconds out of a whole day. When I look at that, I'm like, whoa, I've actually done a lot more studying than I initially thought. And I think at the end of the day, right, if you lying here, I mean, you're lying to yourself. So if you just set the timer and you're not actually studying, that's just cheating yourself. So I do, whenever, if I find that I'm no longer studying, like, if I find that, okay, I'm now getting very distracted, or if it's like on my laptop, I'm opening other tabs, then I stop the timer on Forest, because I don't want to, like, no point in lying to myself. Like, the whole point of this is to also keep myself accountable and to also have a way of evaluating myself. So that point ties in with studying, evaluating study methods. And it's also like, what do I do while studying? And so I've already touched on this briefly, but the next point is assessment. Like, having a way to assess how much you actually know the work, because I do think that's where RemNote really comes in, because I love that it has a built-in feature where I can actually assess the work that I know. And that also it quite motivates me when I said, oh, actually, these concepts are things that I actually know. I actually understood these things a lot better than I thought. Or when I find myself struggling with certain things, I know sometimes it can be demotivating, but also for me, it kind of, the way I think also you need to sort of like reframe your thinking. The way I look at it now is, okay, clearly I need to spend more time on this. And so that actually motivates me that, okay, tomorrow definitely we need to make sure that we study this, we get this down. And I think another point I just want to mention is that with regards to studying, the the hardest study sessions actually tend to be the most productive. I know if you can keep that in mind, I think that will really go a long way, because the way our brains work, if you had to like sort of like struggle, like like you read a content, you have to really struggle to understand it, and you have to read over and over again. Those are the things that our brain will, it's sort of like if our brain worked harder, it'll retain the knowledge a lot better than if you're just passively reading, because also that can also be a poor way of seeing how you know the work. So assessing how well you know the work, you know, doing the exercises. I know a lot of textbooks at the end of the chapter, they have exercises there. So when you get to the end of a chapter, do that exercise and see how well do you actually know the work. Do the past papers people send to you, be it on class group chats or provided to you by your lecturers. Because I know sometimes a lot of people, they tend to avoid past papers because they say it makes them feel anxious and all that. But especially if you make a part of study routine, right, and you don't leave the past papers till the very last minute, you'll be able to even see your progress. Because I think that's also quite more when you can say, oh, last week I struggled to answer these questions, but today the very same questions are a lot easier, and then also give you, okay, now that we've mastered this topic, let us move on to the next one. And so that brings us to the fifth point, which is reevaluate, which I've like I've said, these points not like really linear, like I've already mentioned it, but I'm like specifically mentioning that it's important to actually reevaluate. Okay, are my study methods working? Right? Look at how much time we spend studying, and like, is it, like, does it make sense? Right? Especially like sometimes I think we'll be like, oh, I just studied for 2 hours, but it's like, okay, but what were you doing the whole day? Does it make sense that you only spend 2 hours studying? What? I'm sorry, I bumped the mic. What were you doing the whole day that made you only study 2 hours? I think also with reevaluate, you should be honest. Like, if it's like, okay, you know what, I was tired, or you know, we had a family crisis, we had this and that, cool. But also the time where it's like there'll be excuses like, okay, I took an unnecessarily long nap, or maybe I just found myself being like losing concentration because of Twitter, YouTube, whatever the case might be. It's important to reevaluate and look and see that, is it working? Because if it's not working, then you need to be better. And then six, be as consistent as possible. So if for some reason today you're not able to fulfill, you don't meet the goals you set in terms of your planning, and when you evaluate, you're able to say, okay, this is why, then the next day just try your best. And because I find that if you keep on doing it as consistently as possible, it eventually becomes easier and easier. Even if you start on day one, let's say day one you only study for an hour, the next day, what I found for me at least, is that I found that in the next day I found myself actually, the studying actually lengthens the more I do it. And I don't even feel it. It's almost like my brain and my body, my entire system just gets used to the pattern and the daily grind of studying. And so consistency is important, because I do also recognize that as soon as there's a break, like if a day goes by where I didn't study, I find that it is a lot harder to get back in it. Whereas if I was consistently doing it, it's almost like I'm on autopilot every day. I wake up, I just go through my routine. And so also I think it's part of planning. Though I didn't mention it specifically. Like, look at your daily routine, and that's why I think I advocate more for planning the day before for the next day, especially if you have a schedule that's very dynamic, where it's hard to like pre-plan. But if you can plan in advance, like you can plan for the week, for the month, by all means, whatever works for you. These are just like guidelines, and I want you to just work them in however suits your lifestyle and personality. And the last point is basically, it's never too late to start. Even like as soon as this video is done, whether you're watching it at 10 o'clock at night or you're watching it at like 3 o'clock in the morning, if you still got it though, you should actually sleep. Like, let's let's also advocate for getting enough hours of sleep. But the point I'm trying to make is, I know me, sometimes I can be like, oh my gosh, it's 9 o'clock, it's too late to start studying. Like, if I'm still awake, I'm like, you know what, let's just spend a little bit of time studying today. Because I find that doing that, I found the next day I sort of want to continue whatever topic I had started the previous night. And so these are just some of my tips on how I get myself motivated to study and how I maintain that study why can't I speak, and how I maintain that study motivation. Hopefully this is helpful in any way. Please do share your own study tips in the comment section down below, and I think the next video, or well, I'm not saying the next video, but next time I'll make a video where I talk specifically more in depth about study methods. And so do stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed it, I love you so much. Leave a comment, give a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.